The United States presents itself as a champion of democracy and development. But behind the scenes, its economic policies have systematically underdeveloped nations, trapping them in cycles of debt and dependency. The key to understanding this? The Washington Consensus. In the 1980s, Latin America faced a debt crisis. The U.S. saw an opportunity. Economists and policymakers led by the U.S. Treasury, IMF, and World Bank created a set of 10 neoliberal policies known as the Washington Consensus. The Washington Consensus consists of 10 points, often seen as a set of economic policy prescriptions considered to be the standard reform package promoted for crisis-racked developing countries by Washington, D.C.-based institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, IMF, World Bank, and the U.S. Treasury Department. Fiscal austerity, which means cutting public spending. This often results in reduced funding for essential public services like healthcare, education, and social welfare programs, leading to widespread public discontent and protests. Deregulation, weakening labor and environmental laws. This can lead to increased exploitation of workers and environmental degradation, as industries are given more freedom to operate without stringent oversight. Trade liberalization, opening markets to foreign corporations. While this can boost economic growth, it often undermines local businesses and industries that cannot compete with large multinational corporations. Tax cuts for the rich. These policies are intended to stimulate investment but often result in greater income inequality, as the wealthy benefit disproportionately. Securing property rights mainly for corporations, not the poor. This can lead to land grabs and evictions, displacing vulnerable communities in favor of corporate interests. Financial liberalization, letting capital flow freely. This can attract foreign investment but also makes economies more vulnerable to global financial crises. Competitive exchange rates, often devaluing local currencies. This can make exports cheaper and more competitive but can also lead to inflation and reduced purchasing power for local consumers. And lastly, focusing on exports rather than domestic development. This strategy can drive economic growth but often neglects the development of local infrastructure and industries, leading to long-term economic imbalances. The U.S. didn't ask countries to follow these rules, it forced them. Through the IMF and World Bank, loans came with strict conditions: accept these policies or get no money. Countries drowning in debt had no choice. Public services were slashed, national industries sold off to foreign corporations, and workers' rights dismantled, all in the name of free markets. Essential services like healthcare, education, and public transportation were severely underfunded, leading to a decline in quality and accessibility. The social safety nets that many relied on were torn apart, leaving the most vulnerable to fend for themselves. Countries saw mass unemployment as privatization cut jobs. Entire communities were devastated as factories and local businesses shut down. The loss of stable employment led to a rise in poverty and social unrest, exploding inequality as wealth flowed to foreign investors. The gap between the rich and the poor widened dramatically. While a small elite reaped enormous profits, the majority saw their living standards stagnate or decline. Loss of sovereignty, with policies decided in Washington, not local governments. National leaders found themselves with little control over their own economies. This erosion of autonomy sparked widespread protests and debt traps, where loans kept growing, forcing more austerity. Countries were caught in a vicious cycle of borrowing and cutting, with each round of austerity measures leading to further economic contraction and social hardship. Argentina, once wealthy, was destroyed by privatization and deregulation. The country's economy was brought to its knees by policies that prioritized short-term gains over long-term stability. Greece faced brutal austerity in the 2010s. The harsh measures imposed by international creditors led to widespread suffering, with deep cuts to public services and pensions. The pattern was clear: the Washington Consensus didn't develop nations, it underdeveloped them. Instead of fostering growth and prosperity, it left a legacy of economic instability, social inequality, and political unrest. But some nations resisted and succeeded. These countries took bold steps to chart their own economic paths, often facing significant opposition from powerful international institutions and countries. China ignored the consensus, protecting its industries and state control. By doing so, it managed to transform itself into a global economic powerhouse, lifting millions out of poverty and becoming a major player on the world stage. Malaysia imposed capital controls during the 1997 Asian crisis and recovered faster than its neighbors. Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamed's decisive actions shielded the country from the worst effects of the crisis, allowing it to stabilize and grow. Venezuela, despite US sanctions, used oil wealth for social programs, cutting poverty in half before the oil price collapse. Hugo Chávez's policies aimed to redistribute the nation's oil wealth to benefit the poor, significantly improving living standards for many Venezuelans. The lesson? Countries that reject US-led neoliberalism develop on their own terms. By prioritizing their own economic strategies and focusing on internal development, these nations have shown that there are alternative paths to prosperity. Those that obey, stay trapped. Countries that follow the strictures of neoliberal policies often find themselves mired in debt and poverty, unable to break free from the cycle of economic dependency and hardship. Enter the BRICS countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These nations have formed a powerful economic bloc that stands in stark contrast to the neoliberal model. By focusing on self-reliance, strategic alliances, and innovative policies, BRICS has become a beacon of alternative development. Brazil's Bolsa Familia program has been pivotal in reducing poverty and inequality. By providing direct cash transfers to the poorest families, the country has improved education and health outcomes, fostering long-term economic growth. Russia, despite facing international sanctions, has focused on energy independence and technological innovation. By leveraging its vast natural resources and promoting homegrown industries, it has managed to sustain economic stability and growth. India's economic strategy has centered on digital innovation and infrastructure development. Through initiatives like Make in India and Digital India, the country has attracted foreign investment and boosted its manufacturing sector, creating millions of jobs. China, as previously mentioned, has continued to defy neoliberal expectations by maintaining state control over key industries and investing heavily in infrastructure. Its Belt and Road Initiative aims to create a new Silk Road, enhancing trade and economic integration across Asia, Europe, and Africa. South Africa has utilized its mineral wealth to drive economic development and has made significant investments in education and healthcare to uplift its population. The country's focus on social equity and industrialization has set it on a path of sustainable growth. The BRICS nations demonstrate that there are multiple pathways to development. By prioritizing national interests and fostering regional cooperation, they have achieved remarkable progress, challenging the dominance of neoliberal ideology. As these countries continue to innovate and grow, they offer a compelling blueprint for other nations seeking to break free from the shackles of economic dependency. The success of BRICS is a testament to the power of alternative economic strategies. The Washington Consensus wasn't about helping nations grow, it was about keeping them weak, dependent, and open for exploitation. The US didn't invent underdevelopment, it engineered it. The question now is, will more nations break free? Or will the world remain locked in a system designed to keep the rich powerful and the poor powerless? And don't forget, like the video and subscribe the channel to keep thinking the world how it really is.